So first of all, I want to make a confession. I am a recovering CFO, so I'm not offended by the last presentation at all. Thank you, Dan and Carl, for really setting the stage for what I'm going to cover today. I appreciate that. And so you heard a lot about, just in our last session, winning strategies, human capital strategies. You heard about listening strategies. All of those things we actually do at WTW as well. And so today we're going to dive a little bit deeper, right? To talk about what does it mean to create a relationship between your total reward strategy and your people. But I do have a question for anybody. This is probably the most interactive part of this. What do you all think makes a winning company? Hands, quickly, yell it out. What makes a winning company? Not you, Jill. Not Jill. Jill is my colleague. She cannot answer the question. Anyone else? Really quick. Yeah. Who? Absolutely. You've been peeking at my slides. It's the people. Because contrary to what many people believe, the people in our organization, the people that you manage, the employees at all levels can be your greatest asset or your greatest liability. And so today we're going to talk about how to make sure all of your employees are your greatest asset. And so at WTW, we do tons of research. We're known for research, 50 years steeped in data and insights across all segments, across all industries. But specifically for employee experience, which by the way, wasn't really a thing prior to 2018, we now know that the employees should be and are at the heart of driving productivity and profitability for organizations. So what our company decided to do is figure out how we can quantify that. And what we came out with was the fact that when people or employees are engaged, when employees are developed, and when employees are well, they're feeling well, they're showing up their whole selves at work, it positively impacts the business outcomes. I don't know about you all, but if I can get our employees to help me drive double-digit profit growth, 3 times top-line sales revenue, and going back to what Dan and Carl talked about, lowering the undesired turnover, he just mentioned that, which can be high potential, but it can be anyone that you find value of the company or a specific role. We know that if you focus on the employee experience, it will impact your bottom line. But in looking at that, we also have to be understanding and empathetic that there's disruption all over the world. We have rising living costs, so employees are stressed out about that. We have high inflation. Everybody's talking about the price of eggs. We're all concerned about that. And then we have unfortunate weather events that our country is actually experiencing right now. And so in 2019, we decided to take this 50 years of data and really try to put together a framework to help our clients and organizations truly understand what are high-performing organizations doing different. Is it superior employee experience driving financial results? Or is it the financial results making people show up to drive productivity? So as you can see, and I don't have to talk to all these numbers, we talk to a lot of folks and a lot of companies. And from that, we were able to develop what we call high performance employee experience framework. Now, this is where I kind of become the data nerd because I have an MBA in quantitative analysis, so I love this slide. I don't have a whole lot of time to spend on this slide, but what I can tell you is our clients love the fact that now they can find out where they are from an employee experience perspective, looking at the 4 pillars, and that's purpose, people, work, and total rewards, which is where we're going to focus today. And are they just doing the basics? Are they just trying to get it right to stay in business? Or are they aspiring to be excellent in where they are? And what we do know, back on the last slide, is that high-performing organizations produce results. And so from a total rewards perspective, we've been doing this since 2019, but last year really switched gears for us. The data showed us that total rewards is top of mind for employees that probably can't even define or give you an operational definition of total rewards. And 3 areas that they said was important to them were recognition, and not just recognition in pay, going beyond pay. Growth, can they grow in the company that they're in, or do they need to look somewhere else to develop and become the person that they want to be in their career? And well-being. And I want to double click in well-being because today that is at the heart of everybody's concern. Emotional well-being, social well-being, financial well-being. Now, I am very happy to hear that ADT decided not to connect the 401k to performance. Very happy that they admitted that that probably wasn't the best strategy. And you know why? Because right now is a tough financial time for most, if not all. Whether it be trying to help your employees get financially ready, helping them prepare for the future, or in WTW term, helping them get future ready, that's really, really important. So as you can see from our data, employees are feeling anxious and worried about most things. Majority feel like they're coping, some not coping at all. Many are struggling to just balance day to day. And if you think about that employee, that person that's showing up in that 70%, are they as productive as they can be? And are they giving the company their all? Probably not. And so what we have decided to really do is focus on helping our clients understand, what does total rewards look like? So we have some predictions, right? So the first prediction is AI. How many of you are talking about AI in your offices? I'm sure in some shape or form. Now, I know we all don't have it figured out. I don't think AI has it all figured out. But at the same time, what we do know is using AI in a predictive way to help you learn more, to connect more, and be better is good. Spending money where it counts. That's where we talk about cost optimization. Are you benefiting your employees in a way that you're getting the most out of your investment? That's what the CFO wants to hear. The ROI. What is utilization for these benefits? Are they using it? And what benefits aren't they using? And we're still paying for them. Employee pocketbooks. Well, I grew up with a grandmother that always carried a purse, and she actually called it a pocketbook. So I was super jazzed when our data team said, we're going to put pocketbook on here. I'm like, yes, because that resonates with me. But what does that mean? It means helping employees keep money in their pockets. Elevating transparency. Now, many companies now are grappling with, what does DEI look like? Is it around? Is it not? But where we see that showing up is pay transparency. Governance. Robust human capital strategies for everyone. And focusing on those metrics to the stakeholders that allow us to continue to work every day. And then our last prediction for 2025 is really doubling down on careers. What type of career framework do you have that's going to support the productivity of your organization? Does it match your business priorities? And so all of these things, now, if I come back in 26 and none of those work, don't hold me accountable. But we believe, just based on our data and what our clients are asking for, it's falling in those 5 areas. And so to address those things, here's what companies are doing. They're looking at their pay, they're looking at their benefits, they're looking at careers and well-being. From an attraction and retention standpoint, they're making sure that they understand what the business needs, who the business needs, in order to move forward. From talent acquisition to retirement, what does the employee life cycle look like, and is it set up for success for the organization? We already talked about pay transparency and equitable pay, but making sure that those concerns around rewards by regulators, by stakeholders, by employees are addressed, and understanding if this is an opportunity to analyze whether it should be even more transparent. I'm working with the client right now, or actually we developed their communication strategy, where they are going through a global pay transparency project. And they're getting it right. But here's what happened. When they brought our team in, we had the work and rewards team, we had the employee experience communication strategy team. They said, you know what, we could just push it out. And I'm like, well, no, that's not the most effective way to do it. When you start talking about pay, you want to make sure that you listened. What is your listening strategy? Are you addressing what you heard? And then how are we communicating it in a way that people will understand it, respect it, and actually execute upon it? Program affordability. I think we can all agree that benefits cost from the company's perspective and employees' perspective. But really understanding the utilization and the cost associated with that is really important. Employers' needs, employees' needs, being more diverse. Again, that's kind of where that DEI notion shows up. Are you looking at just sweeping benefits? Or are you able to take your listening strategy, the data that you've received, and actually understand what plans work for what populations? Many organizations think that that's expensive. But what I say is sit down with your vendors and talk about plan design. Do you have plans that no longer work for your employees? The base is changing. The people in our offices are changing. The generations are changing. What worked for my grandmother doesn't work for me, and most likely won't work for my 14-year-old son, right? And so making sure that those plans are modular enough for you to address the population. And then, of course, technology. I love when I hear folks talking about, we surveyed. I'm like, I love that. But those one and done surveys is not the thing. And so I'm super excited because I do have a colleague. I'm gonna have him raise his hand. Stanford, raise your hand. He is our data survey guru. And he actually helps arm us, the consultants that's going out and talking about broad human capital management strategies. How can we get the most insights to help you craft a story and a strategy that works for you? So listening is really important. So you might be asking yourself, well, where do we begin? Ingrid, where do I start? Total rewards is such a big thing. Where do I start? First of all, you want to look at just assessing your plans, doing a level of assessment, having someone sit down with you, working with your HR team. You might want to, don't quote me, but you may want to start to involve your finance team in these discussions, because if you need more money to address a need, it's easier to have them a part of the discussion versus bringing them in on the ladder. Helping to understand how to drive productivity through total rewards. I love that, because what ultimately happens is you get the bang for your buck and the people stay. You're going to hear listening. I mean, I can't say this enough. Your listening strategy cannot be one and done. And it's one thing to listen. It's another thing to execute. When we have clients come to us and they all, we want to do a survey. And my first question is why? And what are you going to do with it? And make sure you don't ask questions that you're not willing to address, because nothing hurts the employee morale worse than asking questions and they never hear anything back. But once you have that listening strategy in place, start to involve more people in the areas to help create that story on what's going to change and what can't change. And then, of course, transparency. So what I'd like to say is it's time to take action. We don't have the luxury of waiting. I'm hoping that our predictions hold true and that there are no surprises, which I highly doubt, because every year there's always a surprise. But taking action now is really important. Getting those insights, uncovering what you're good at, uncovering your gaps, uncovering where you may be weak, and then figuring out what you need that you may have internally or if you have to go outside and work with an organization or an agency to support you in that. Doing an assessment, aligning your total rewards with the programs and the value that you expect to get out of it. And then, of course, improve. Now, what I didn't tell you is I grew up in GE. 15 years. I don't look that old, but I promise you I've been in corporate for over 20 years. 15 years in GE, and everything was all about Lean Six Sigma. Define, measure, analyze, improve, control. So when you think about improving, it's not just once. It's continuous, like we talked about continuous listening. It's continuous improvement on what you've learned to make it better, to ultimately continue to drive that high-performing experience. And then, of course, assessing where you are, leveraging, and I like this slide. I'm looking, oh, leveraging WTW. Yes, leveraging our organization to help you get ready. Because in our world, it's one thing to do change. It's one thing to have a great communication strategy. But if it's not combined with the change management to make sure your organization is ready for that change, it may not go as well as you would want it to go. So combining that change management with that communication strategy is paramount. So in order to create the relationship breakthrough, you need that dialogue. You need listening. You need communication that ultimately creates that high-performing employee experience that we all want to help drive productivity. So in closing, I always like to say, WTW, we're pretty good at what we do. Matter of fact, no, we're darn good at what we do. And it is one of the best organizations to work with and work for. And so when we look at all the things that we bring to the table, we're able to address anything in your employee life cycle from, again, talent or pre-talent or candidacy to retirement. And so as you all listen to the other speakers for today, make sure that you go out and support the vendors, but definitely stop by WTW. We have a live demo that's amazing, that's going to even give you some insights and some interactive play on how you can take your continuous listening strategy and actually execute it in your business. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.